Hello once again everyone and welcome to another episode at the Cusp of Freedom. I'm your host Marvin Tchio and today I have a very special guest and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm John Shoemaker. I live in Panama City, Panama.
Yeah. And today we'll be discussing why and how John became who he is so that you watching live or whenever you decide to watch this can see what it takes, the challenges that it takes, or the challenges that you have to overcome in order to be in his position, and we'll shine some light on some perspective and philosophy that you can take with you in order to be better than us. So without further ado, we'll jump straight into it. So John, we'll start. What do you do for a living?
Right now I am doing investing primarily in online platforms with lending money.
Okay. So, how long have you been a digital nomad for?
I spent, first let's go back to kind of getting how it started first. 6-7 years ago I started traveling experimental after breaking up with a girl, and I had a bunch of points. So I traveled for free for 2 months, basically, and one is a 10-day test run. Then I did a 35-day test run, and then I focused entirely on getting prepared for actually being more digital nomad and traveling and moving outside of the United States. So I finally left the United States in December of 2021. So not quite a year yet. I'm in digital nomad. But okay. I became a resident of Panama though, as well. So I live here as a permanent resident.
Okay, that's good to know. So, with regards to what you do for a living now, is it correlated with what you studied in college?
Somewhat, yes. It's because I studied accounting, the bachelor's, and MBA as my master's. So it has related to it, but it's and I never studied modeling, but I do a lot of financial modeling as well. So I've learned some of those things on the way, but investing is all part of the investing part that I've learned on the way. Along with real estate, which is I do a lot of investing in real estate. So and I've worked in construction for many years, and I also owned rental properties. So I'm very familiar with the real estate area as well. So that's why I do real estate as well.
Okay. So why did you go to school for accounting? Like what did you see in yourself that made you feel like accounting was right for you?
Well, I wanted to finish up more so what I started. I'm not a person who likes to be a straight accountant in the sense that you go in, it's really a boring job. I mean, you have to have a certain personality because you literally have a calendar that says every activity for the entire future of doing that job pretty much. So it's a very boring job. So I like doing accounting. I've done accounting, but I never want to do it as a profession because for me personally, I find it very boring. But I just wanted to actually finish up something since I started it I served in the military as a Navy nuclear operator, the Homer Simpson job, if you're familiar. So I wanted to finish up what I started prior military.
Okay, so you basically went to college for accounting because you wanted to finish that prior to what you started, and you think it's also a very boring thing to do. So you think like something like patience is a required thing that you must have in order to go into accounting?
It's process. So you have to enjoy doing the same process every single month, every single year, and not like variability in your job. If you like variability in a job, you can do some types of accounting that's more interesting, like auditing maybe, and stuff like that. But if you do general accounting for a company, you will have, it'll be very boring for you. But it doesn't require math either. I suck at math. All it requires is elementary math. It does not in this understanding process. But it's very good to actually, I think, to have accounting skills because in business, it's because you read financial statements. You have understanding of what's going on within the company, So I do think that more business leaders should have accounting background than some do probably.
Interesting. So there's different types of accounting, and the type of accounting that you do is more of a process that's repetitive. Would you say that that repetitive process makes the job easier over time because you get used to doing the same process over and over?
Yes, it is definitely easier over time. What I tended to do later on was a kind of job-based accounting where I would be solving problems. So basically a company hired me to fix the problem. Like one job was an AP manager because the accounts payable system was, you couldn't pay a bill. So as a result, I went in there and I had to clean up the entire AP system and work
What's
with
AP?
accounts payable.
Okay.
So I cleaned up that entire system and improved other systems throughout the process. So I used my master's and a lot of my process systems I'm good at as well to improve processes.
Interesting. So you decided. So although there's different types of accounting, I forgot the one you mentioned that's more versatile, but you purposely went into this one because you wanted to finish what you started when you were in the military. So experience like the process of being in the military. How long did you serve for, and what made you get in the military?
I served for about 5 years, and most people who join up into the nuclear operator program, it is more of a basically everyone is either runs out of money for college, they drink themselves out of college, and they're usually 21, which is a little bit older than your typical infantryman or like out of high school or something like that. So they're generally slightly older with some college education, but it is one of the top level programs in the U.S. military with about it is a year and a half of training, but then you have periods or hold periods, so it turns into a 2 to 2.5 year period for training before you can ever even enter the fleet. And it's one of the top level jobs, which I highly recommend today, even for young people, because you can retire very well off if you're smart with your money, because bonuses are massive in that program, and you'll learn to be how to think, how to process the world, and you're better prepared for jobs as well, I think. And you can get out at 40 years old with full pension and probably easily at least $1 million on your own personal if you are smart with your money, because your bonuses pay everything else, and you're still getting a pension for $2,500 a month. So if you want to retire earlier and a high-level job, and if you want to work afterwards, you still work as a nuclear power plant operator and still make $90,000, $100,000 a year very quickly. And some guys got out when I was in there for $150,000 for 5-year contracts, and they got huge bonuses if you had major qualifications. So I mean, simply put, you make a lot of money doing it, and you don't have to go to college, you don't have to get college debt, you don't have anything like that.
Because they help you pay for college, right?
Well, actually, the education is, they pay for your nuclear education. That's all part of the military. Then you also get GI Bill. So if you want to go to college afterward for something else, you can have that paid for entirely and still get a cost of living allowance.
Wow,
so I mean, I actually highly recommend it for people. I'm not going to say that nuke school is fun, and it's a very competitive industry, but do 20 years and you can do very well off, and you can do whatever the hell you want afterwards.
What does that fall within? Like, say there's a war, who's the first line that they send? They send you in the war thing, or are you more of like technical support?
We're technical support, but we are on the ships and on the subs. So we're the engine. We're the guys who, as we say, hot rocks make a boat go. That's how you explain nuclear power. I mean, all it is you have a power plant makes hot. You then create steam. It then runs a ship, runs the catapults for your to launch planes. It cleans your water. It gives you hot water, and it gives electricity. So we're simply put the people who run the ship and provide power.
Okay. So you started with that prior to college, and then I'm guessing you used your GI Bill, you mentioned it, to go and finish what you started with accounting.
Yep.
So you were doing that, you racked up no student loan, I'm guessing.
No student loans. I have
Wow.
304 credit hours of
Wow.
official education with 2 certificates in accounting, a accounting degree, a nuclear power plant operator's for military issued from the Department of Defense or Department of Energy, and I have an MBA and a licensed insurance agent for a total of maybe $10,000 in cost, and I had $5,000 in student loans for my first one, which paid off immediately.
Wow.
So yes,
That's a cheat code, right?
Yeah.
Man, that sounds amazing. Okay, so after when you started doing accounting, how long have you been doing accounting for again?
I've been doing accounting for about 4 or 5 years now.
And accounting, would you say accounting brought you to become a digital nomad? Or when you were in the military, did you have travel experiences?
Well, actually, what really made me a digital nomad is real estate, because I use real estate to as an investor instead, and I bought my first house in an area, college area that was just on its way from recovery because it had major crime issues there. So I bought in right before it started getting expensive, and then I bought some more units as well during the rise in the real estate market.
Okay.
And then sold out in the last year while it's been a good market for selling on that. So what really made it helped me out with accounting in the sense that it helped pay for some of the projects and real estate on it, but at the same time, and also understanding of finances. But what real estate was really what helped me become more digital nomad was by becoming knowledgeable in investing, helped out with many aspects of personal development, professional development, because I led several projects involving the real estate side of it more.
Okay, we'll get to that real estate part. So I guess you started from the military, you went into accounting, you went to college, and you went into accounting. You said you went into the military because you foresaw the benefits, right?
I was running from. I lost a fiance as a high school sweetheart and to sickness, and when I was 20. So I then kind of was running from that really when I joined up.
Okay.
So
you would say that you would what do you call it? You would accredit a lot of your success to that beginning stage of things.
Yes, I was very shy. I was a friend of mine. I'm very similar to him, so I always looked at how he is now, and he has never left home, area where we grew up, and I'd be more like him probably if it wasn't for going to the military. So
wow.
That was very. I'm glad I did it. It was the best thing I ever did. But as everyone everyone joins the military says, I would do it all over again if I would need a memory wipe. So, yes. Interesting.
So the military gave you the tenacity to get out of your comfort zone for once, because I guess wait, when did you first started traveling?
I really kind of started traveling about 27 range. I kind of did trial runs to run to Belize, because Belize is a good starter country if you want to. No, just like as a starter travel, just a test run.
Yeah.
Because Belize is an English-speaking country. It's generally, you understand what they say. And it's a very good place to start out if you have no clue what the hell you're doing. Take a 2-week trip, and then you figure out, okay, how do I actually do this? And then you then do another longer trips and get yourself used to it, get your packing, because then you put a lot of people overpack.
Yeah.
And then the cost adds up from shipping way too much crap you don't need, and you need only a few clothes. A female actually taught me the 15 kilo method. You don't have more than 15 kilos. You don't she didn't need many dresses. She got away with very simple, very universal clothing. So I mean, a female taught me that method, It's not just a male thing. How to pack light.
So your first trips, were they solo trips?
Solo trips. First was 10 days to Belize. Then it was 35 days. Well, I started out in Belize, Guatemala for a month, and then ended in Belize again.
And how would you say traveling for that first time? How would you say it shaped your perspective of the world?
Oh, it massively changed it. I met a guy on the first trip who really helped me out halfway through, and we then hung out as a group as we were going in the same direction. About out of 4 people who was hung out for a week or so, and I learned a lot from him. I'm still in contact with him today. I'm very grateful to Taylor. So.
Nice. So you would say that without getting into the military, you probably would have never traveled or experienced or never got all the benefits of life that you have now.
Yeah. I mean, a totally different lifestyle. I don't know who I'd be exactly, but it would definitely be not here if it wasn't for that.
For that, wow, man, that is so crazy. I can't even imagine. Like, so there was like no, man, because like the way I see it, right, is like in the United States, 2/3 of people don't have passports. They usually go to college, they get a corporate job, and they just work for the rest of their lives. I've never actually met someone who's, I don't know, like for most people that I meet that are traveling, they're like the factor that pushes them to travel is either like their parents were digital nomads, and their parents got really strongly encouraged when they were younger, and they shaped their perspective early on. Yeah. But you went through like the military, and I'm guessing the military prepared you better suited to travel solo. And then you took that leap of faith, and then it changed your perspective, and it made you grow into who you are today. So I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, military. I didn't have 5 years without really celebrating on a regular basis, birthdays, holidays. You get 30 days off a year, but that counts weekends as well, and official days you'd already be off anyways. So you only get actually about 3 weeks off a year. So 30 days is a con job on it. I should say 3 weeks off a year. Yeah, it is very important for that. But I'll also say I realized that I can see some cracks in the foundations of the U.S. System. So I also, early on when I was about 20, I wanted to kind of leave the U.S. and get different citizenships and work on that. So that's also part of what made me want to travel.
While you were in the military?
Yes, and also when I was I was 18, 19 years old, the home ec class I was in, Mrs. Bacon brought us to Raymond James, and they had a kind of the standard spiel of if you save X amount of money for this period of time, get this returns, you'll have $1 million by X date.
So financial education in a sense.
Yeah, financial education, just kind of very bare bones on it. But I was like, I want to actually be more on that track, not on the track of work till I'm 65, 8 years old, have a heavy student loan debt, and the typical path that people go on, in the States especially. So I kind of didn't want that from the beginning.
So you were in the military. Wait, the teacher you mentioned, that was back in
senior year of high school. Mrs. Bacon, awesome teacher.
Okay, so that gives you a better perspective of like the trajectory that you wanted, and not like what other people were doing.
Yeah.
So in the military, why didn't you stay like the full? Because you said you mentioned you get a pension when you turn 40, and I'm guessing the earliest you can get in the military is like 18.
18,
so
unless you can be 17 if your parent signs off on it and you graduate early. As my understanding, I knew one guy who had that, and he was very interesting fellow. That's the only I found out that you have to realize that we experiment with tons of caffeine and how to stay awake because we don't sleep. So I sleep about 4 hours a day, pretty much. So he had a medical condition I never knew existed from having way too much caffeine. So I was don't take in about a couple thousand milligrams a day for a couple months. It's a bad idea.
So after 20 years in the military, how long do you have to be in order to earn that pension?
20 years. I didn't. Also, if you join the military, have a personality that you are less independent in the sense that you can put up with less flexible, less independent, and more like chill with following orders. If you are too independent, they don't like you very well. If you're we had disagreements, so that's why I left the military.
Interesting, because you're more of an independent type of guy.
Yes.
Makes sense. Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. So military is an option, but it's not you can definitely find better options if it's not for you.
Yes. I do it for one. Do it for 8 years. If you do it for an 8-year contract as a nuke, you get a 6-year contract standard. You get $40,000 bonus, as last time I heard, and it was a $150,000 bonus for another 2 years on top of that.
Nice.
So, and plus, I mean, if you save your money during a time period, you can easily have quite a bit of money just from, and you can go out and have a good job on the exterior, outside the civilian world as a nuclear operator, work for another 5 years. And if you save your money, invest wisely, you can still retire after working for 15 years or so, 20 years, very well without even your pension. So I mean, it's an option, at least the better options. And if you want to do college, you can do college for free and start a whole new career.
Okay. Yeah. Before we hop into like your real estate sort of career in a sense, let's talk a little bit about the challenges that you went through the military and through the accounting phase of your jobs. So when you were in the military, what are some like things that you would highlight were very challenging, besides being independent and not getting along with people if you're independent?
Well, one thing, as a nuke, you better like science and math. I absolutely hate science and math. So that was a big challenge for me because I am terrible at those topics. And I got the record for the most failures, class failures, the most test failures.
Seriously?
I still hold the record probably on that one from that school. And also, there was a time capsule kind of showcased what that school was. It has the highest suicide rate, at least when I was there, it had the highest suicide rate of any program in the military. It was pressure put on you.
Wow.
And Admiral Rickover, who started the program, it was said that the time capsule contained his head Futurama style, laughing all the souls are damned. So I'm not going to say it's always the most pleasant experience in the world, but I will say it's a good experience afterwards. You'll realize you're a better person.
Okay. So you go to the furnace, but you become disciplined, you get all these other attributes that help you face the world in a better sense.
Exactly. So, and it's a very competitive industry where you have master chiefs who make E9. The earliest I heard was 8 years, which is the most insane thing ever. Usually takes, if you're lucky, like it's towards the end of your 25, 30-year career, maybe 20 years in, and not 8 years. So it's very competitive. It is, I think, less camaraderie than your typical like infantryman, some of those types of jobs. Your Marine. It's very, very competitive industry.
Okay. So how about accounting? Was college challenging to become an accountant, and how hard was it to get a job after college?
Oh, well, if you have a good internship programs, like co-op programs, I think you take advantage of those. It's easier to get a job. And accounting's easy. I mean, accounting really, it's just about understanding the system that they have determined as the proper GAAP system. Math-wise, as long as you know your basic 4, you're pretty good on that.
So it's general globally, I guess.
Yeah, it's you have your GAAP systems, then you have your international accounting standards, which is slightly different. But it's very simple industry to get into. It is for people who like process, who like systems. It's a great, easy industry. I personally like taxes because taxes are a way to get freedom on it. Because if you understand a tax system, that is how you pay less taxes, and it is just very good to understand how taxes are, because how tax policy is, that is where the best place to invest too, because that's where the government's encouraging. So if you can kind of follow tax policy and understand what what tax policy is encouraging helps out your investing as well.
Okay.
So this kind of investing tip on that.
Okay, that brings us to, I guess, the real estate investment. When did you get started on that? And what made you want to get into real estate out of all assets?
Well, I bought my first house after the military because of bad experience on a lease. And that was a personal house. I then turned that one into a college rental with a nice, very fun project that I had a garage get taken out by a tree in a storm. We then basically built a garage, but then it turned into a massive house renovation. That turned to be was very fun and challenging for me, and very much more expensive than I expected. But how I really got into real estate was a bad breakup, a girlfriend I didn't really like, and she said I couldn't do construction in real estate, so I'm like, screw you, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, that's really the honest answer to how I did it.
It seems like for you, it seems like a lot of your bad breakup is leading you towards like fruitful.
Yeah, it's positive, using it, positive energy to create.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
So regarding to real estate, what would you say is the most challenging aspect of it? And you also mentioned something about taxes and following the tax loopholes, because that's what the government is incentivizing people to go and invest in. So how would you say your tax knowledge helps you in real estate, and what is the most challenging thing when you want to get involved in real estate? Like, what do you look at?
Well, it's about profitability on it. I mean, if you're buying in at top of the market, you'll look at it from return. You will be making less money on a longer term return on it. So I mean, make sure the returns. I have a good model that you can figure out what your actual expected returns are, how much you can pay for it to get those returns, and if you can get something that has underperforming currently, and you then can have something you can enhance it to get better returns on, like a better return, that is the best opportunity. Like if you buy it for discount because it needs some work on it, and it's not, the rents are too low, so it's at a lower value on it. Then, and understand the modeling, how you figure out what is the value of that property. If you are, when you get buy a commercial property, if you rent, you're looking at it from a standpoint of how much value is it based upon. If my expected return is 10%, you then have to.
It's like a monthly return or like a yearly return?
Yearly return. Okay. Then you have to figure out and also depreciation is always going to be out of that. This non-cash expenses is depreciation.
Okay. Yeah.
So knowing accounting is very good. So, and financials somewhat is very good with that type of industry. But also knowing how to do the actual fixing, repairs, and all that stuff, because that is an expense that adds up quick, and especially if you're paying a mortgage on it, and everything, that cuts into your profitability very quickly if you don't know how to do repairs yourself and aren't willing to do any repairs. I don't recommend you probably getting involved in it unless you have a partner who does that side of it, and you're the finance side, or you're like the management side of it. Like you have to have different people doing different skill sets on there, or if you don't want to learn all that stuff yourself.
Interesting. And what benefits does real estate have with taxes?
Well, first off, depreciation is a huge write-off on profit. So basically, most properties won't, on paper, generate any profits, because it'll be 27 and a half years for your standard non-commercial property, or I think it's like 39 years if you're doing over time periods. You're writing down the asset value. So it takes away a lot of profitability on paper, but you're actually making money on it. But and plus, you can have a direct write-off, because you'll have a below-the-line write-off where it is going to be only a portion of it for most of your personal expenses, types things you write off on it. But then if you have as a business real estate, if you have buy tools, anything associated with that, you can then write that off as a direct write-off from your income. So it reduces your income overall.
It increases your income overall.
Well, decreases from tax standpoint, decreases your income.
Okay.
So, which is a good thing. As any person who doesn't knows finances, companies, you have different types of books. You have your operations books for accounting books. You have your management for understanding performance. You have your tax. They're all different. And just because if you look at your tax books, you will then, that will be, your goal is to have as low as possible, pay as little as possible. But then, from an operations standpoint, you want to understand performance. Then you have GAAP as well, which would be for general accounting, accepted accounting practices, principles for U.S. requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So that is different then as well. So each one has its own purpose behind it. So some you want as high as possible if you're presenting to investors. The other one for taxes, you want it as low as possible, so you want no income showing, but you might show actual income with the investors inside of it. And it's all just it's all accurate. It's just how the codes, how their requirements are on there.
Man,
so some you might
sense.
have depreciation is different on how you take depreciation on it, all different ways. Because taxes, you might be doing depreciation this way. With your other, you might be doing depreciation another way. So it can get more complicated on it if you're taking off, you can take for depreciation your fixtures, I think 5 years on that. So you're writing off assets values differently. If you do it right, except land is not depreciable unless you have a substantial decline in value from erosion or something like that. So land is not depreciable.
So, I've heard a lot of things like land is a good investment as well. So how does that, if you can't write off the depreciation, and how does that make it profitable?
It's profitable because if you can buy it at a discount before it is actually higher value, and you can anticipate, okay, the city's moving this way, we have a project, cities might... Cities developing out this area and kind of heading, so this, say this farmland is right in the way of where there's probably going to be high development on it. So if you buy that farmland 5 years out at $2,000 an acre, and where I lived, it was at $200,000 an acre in a city. So if you then sell it off to developers, when projects coming in, that's the way to do it. But you have to anticipate longer in advance. You can't buy it when it's already there. Everyone knows about it. You are lost out.
Just like this crypto, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Most real estate. If you don't buy into real estate markets once it's at peak, like Costco Viejo here, you would not buy, from a profitability standpoint, you would never buy the market here too much. You'd buy into Santa Ana, you buy into other neighborhoods where it's reaching into that neighborhood. You don't, and the up and coming areas. In my city I worked at and had real estate, the cops basically made this one area contain the crime, and they bought up all the real estate at $5,000 a house, and then and no one wanted it. But then now you can sell some of those properties for $100,000. So it's not exactly the best way. It's corruption basically by the cop side of it for maintaining the city part by maintaining that. But you want it when it's highly depressed and it's on the way up then. So you'll have to deal with. The only thing is if you're dealing with that type of real estate, you'll have tenants that are a little bit less desirable for periods of time, and you might have to wait 5-10 years. So that's a longer term investment standpoint. But if you buy at $5,000, sell it for $100,000, and make some money along the way, it's awesome return.
Nice. There's this saying that rich people don't pay tax. I'm guessing it has to do with real estate and finding other ways to have very low taxes. Do you think that? Is there a way if you're an American that you can pay no taxes?
No taxes is not really possible on it. 'Cause, I mean, just
It's just like very low that
it's just I mean a list like was it Warren Buffett, his secretary paid in top assistant paid in the top tax brackets for earned income. Is I actually had a teacher who was very wealthy at university, who he actually volunteered because if he earned income, it cost him more money because that was actually earned while other stuff was passive income. So he got capital gains rates, a preferred rates on dividends. A real estate he owned had also preferred advantages on that. So you'll be a top rate if you don't have any active income at 23% about. And if you have active income and top rates, you're at about 40%. So you will always be paying more taxes if you have active income. Passive income, from capital gains, from dividends, is way better a way to make money if you want to pay less taxes. Also, you do have some shelters. I mean, where you can have trusts where you can then shelter the money away from it, and where it's not taxable. I mean, so they put if you can pay the lawyers to actually develop out that stuff, that's how they save money on it, and not paying less taxes. As that one joke in the Firm, the book The Firm by John Grisham was, a wealthy guy would rather pay a lawyer $500,000 rather than pay the IRS $100,000.
Yeah, because I heard that I spoke with a friend of mine the other day, and he gave me a perspective on how taxes work. Say for example, you're in a 25% tax bracket. That means that 1 out of every 4 years, you're working for free basically, right?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, you have to look at the U.S.'s tax is different though, because some countries include in there if you're at 25% income tax bracket. Well, first off, it'll be progressive rate. So first layers will be, and you'll have your actual rate that you pay from your taxes paid over gross income. So that'll be your actual rate. You'll blend it over several tax brackets from 0 to like 10, then up to 25. So it's blended first off. Then you're looking at if you have any like investment income, might have 0 tax rates on some of it, might have different blending on there. So you'll have your actual tax rate you're paying overall, not just your top end tax bracket. But yeah, so it is better to, it's definitely better with the tax brackets like that.
Wow, so now that we've spoken on why and how you became who you are, in a sense, what would you say is the most, is there a philosophy that you live by?
I think it's freedom. For me, it is about freedom, and also it's about peace. If you can find peace, in it might be a monastery, on a mountain, praying every day, that is really what matters more. If home is what you make it, the whole saying there, and also another great quote, a life, it's moments that take your breath away that matter more than how many breaths you take. It's a paraphrase on that one.
Wow.
But if you lived only 30 years, but it was the absolute most amazing life ever. I witnessed a 20-year-old dying and an 80-something-year-old dying. 20-year-old lived a better life. It's from how he died, how peaceful they were, and everything else. 20-year-old had a better life and did more with their life.
Interesting. So from this perspective, do you feel like traveling is a better life than having like a...
Depends. It's not for everyone. Traveling it's not like going to an all-inclusive resort for a week, spending a lot of money. It is you actually it's a sustainability on it. It is more about finding the passion of why you travel too. Because if you do have, I know people who made money earlier and basically retired at very young and are effectively retired, and their life has less meaning behind it. So it's the whole FIRE movement, financially independent, retire early. It's not retiring in the golfing in Florida sense and get your condo. It is finding something you care about. And one of my mentors told me, that mentor told him this: your 20s are for education, get as much education as possible. Your 30s, make as much money as possible. Your 40s, public service, a general guideline life. Your 50s, do the job you want to do that financially does not make any sense at all, whether it's volunteering or working, for me, a bike mechanic. Bike mechanics make trash money. It's not financially viable.
But it's fun. It's a fun thing.
Yeah. In your 60s, whatever the hell you want. But I actually worked knew a person who owned a bike shop where all their employees actually were around 40 years old or up. They all had master's degrees. They had careers prior to that, had some money that they earned off dividends and other investments. And then they worked for bike mechanic wages, which back then was probably $10 an hour. So they did what they enjoyed doing, and everyone who worked there, that company had to treat everyone right, because that was not there. They went there by choice, and so it was different management style, and they had better products better outcomes because everyone was there because they wanted to be there, and not because they had to be there. So it was like only companies I've ever seen that operated in that manner.
Damn, that's interesting. So in your 20s, you would advise, I mean, you said 20s are for education. Do you feel like traveling is one of the best ways to educate yourself?
It is a good way, as long as you have a proper mindset on it. You have like 3 types of travelers. You have the types who will not remember anything afterwards. They drank too much, did too many drugs, and whatnot along the way. Then you have your don't know what the hell they want to do, a traveler, which is a bulk of them. They're trying to figure out what want to do in life. And then you have the self-actualized travelers who are usually not going to be found in the cities like at Selena in general. They'll be here just for transit. They're the ones volunteering in small towns with animals. They know why they travel. They are traveling for a purpose, and they are much more focused. And that's not a lot of them. You don't meet tons of self-actualized travelers, especially at a place like this.
You always say self-actualized travelers are the best ways if you want to learn. Or
if you can, meet some of those people and kind of, but you can kind of start developing how you are. But you develop as a person though. You start out usually somewhere in the middle part of that, not knowing what the hell. Some people just don't remember anything. Does not matter at all the whole trip because they don't remember anything. But starting out, most people start out as a middle category of not trying to figure out what they want to do in life. As a 20-year-old, the U.S. especially is different because you are expected to know exactly what you want to do out of high school. No one, seriously, you have people who want to go through 5 different programs. They waste tons of money. Then you have one guy who graduated around my time with his bachelor's, $100,000 in debt with a general studies degree because he couldn't figure out what the hell he wanted to do. And what do you do with a general studies degree? So I have a degree. I went to classes. So taking a year off, doing something as a European gap year is not a bad way. Do the military for 4 years. Do something to figure out what you don't want to do, kind of get focused, and then jump into what you want to do with more drive. Is probably a better and more financially smart way to do it. And the whole side thing is general guideline. Get your bachelor's, if you want, right now actually I think is make better money in trades because trades are like your electrician, plumbing, some of that stuff because
I feel like those are underrated.
Oh, they're underrated. People don't want to do it. More people, young people in general, don't want to get their hands dirty more often.
Like, ooh, I'm going to be a plumber. No.
Exactly. It's like, so, but if you look at it from a standpoint, you get paid on your apprenticeship. Back years ago, it was like $17, $18 an hour starting just to do your apprenticeship. You get trained. You don't have any debt. in 4 years, 3 to 4 years, well, maybe 5 years, you'll be a fully master level. You can work on your own, and you're making very good money, and probably more money than your college counterpart for the most part, with less debt and more reliable often. There's high demand for trades now because of the very fact that people, a lot of them are old and retiring off and dying off. So it's actually you get better paid probably in that. So college is not for everyone. Just because we say college is the only result as in the States, and I think don't follow your own path, and if you want to do investment banking, yes, probably go for you need college. But if you don't necessarily really care, and it's not you aren't a bookish person, like use your hands, become an electrician, become something else, and it's join the military in some trades, and you learn from there also. There are better ways to do it than just wrote a way that we say, do this is how you should live your life, retire at 67 years old, 65 years old with your Social Security, and have your kids, your white picket fence. Pick your own path and go along with that path, and just don't go along with what society is saying that you should be doing along the way.
And I'm telling you, John, you strike me as someone who's like very independently thoughtful. Like you think for yourself, basically, and I admire that a lot. I don't know, for someone that travels solo, what would you say is some advice? You have some advice that we can take in order to live more sustainably or travel more sustainably, and to get caught up in the whole, living lavishly, just traveling lavishly?
Well, as a general life plan way in general, if you indulge in caviar every single meal, you have to find something better than that to actually have a luxury. So if you live simple, your life in general, you stay simple places, you personally I like to eat street food better, but then you actually enjoy the pleasures of life, the simpler pleasures. So eating out at a nice restaurant becomes much better if you don't eat out every day at a nice restaurant. From clothing wise, if you enjoy nicer clothing, if you don't wear all the time, you dress simply. You aren't trying to just be an image, like stand out, get noticed, wear the brands. As the great Tyler Durden says, we work jobs we hate, to buy stuff we don't want, to impress people we don't like. A little paraphrase on language, but yes, that's how most people work on that. Do you really care what your neighbor thinks if you have drive some Camry, 6-year-old Camry, or if you're driving newest BMW? It doesn't really matter what Joe Blow thinks. Do you really care? Do you like that person?
Yeah, wow, bro, wow.
But from travel sustainably on it, if you actually want to be open to talk to people, be willing to just say, why not? Will I get? Is it dangerous? Evaluate from danger standpoint. Evaluate it from is it good for me standpoint. But just say why not? While I was in Sicily, I met this awesome gal, now a good friend of mine. She was like in Italy, she was like, hey, I'm going up to my family's house in northern Italy. We want to come up there and hang out in the mountains in this tiny 200 person town where no one actually really goes. I'm like, why not? So I went up there and hung out with her family for a week, and most amazing time ever. Got real Italian food, hiked in the mountains, a refuge, got food from them, met some awesome people, met a friend I met in Panama who lived up in northern Italy as well. And it's to say why not and evaluate it through a risk management system is a good way to live your life. As long as it's not going to hurt you, you have time available, you financially can do it, just jump on it and just let's do it. Who knows what the outcome will be. And yeah, now if I go back to Italy, I have a wonderful friend that I care a lot about, and she's amazing. So I can always visit her and we can hang out.
Yeah, much respect, bro. I've learned a lot from you in this interview, but just for the sake of respecting, the time of the audience and and social media and all that. I don't want people to be on social media too long, so that's why I try to keep the episode like 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you shine some really, really, really like in-depth knowledge and a lot of great advice that I personally learned from today, and I hope people watching this today have also learned from. And is there any last keyword of advice that you would give the audience watching that they can take with them and apply to their daily lives?
Figure out what you want to do with your life, and then figure out your own path. Don't just follow what your parents say, society says, your friends say. Figure out your own path. And if your path is to work a job until you're older and have fancy stuff and have the image, that's what you care about, do that. If it's about traveling, think about your sustainable travel on it. Think about maybe working for 10 years, make as much money as possible, and then like developing the skills, and then working as a freelancer, and then have some income coming in as well. Develop your skills all throughout, like for maybe 5-10 years, and then just go and prepare for while you're doing it. Your whole life is about preparing for the future, and if you can think about like one guy as a closer on it. I met him at 20 through, he was 24 years old when he effectively retired. He knew he wanted to travel. He got his computer science degree or something, software. He worked for 2 years at a Silicon Valley firm, made tons of money, probably lived at his parents' house or with a bunch of Mexicans, saved every penny of it, invested it, and it was about around 08 period, so right after the crash. So if he invested that money he probably made, he was at $500,000+ He worked 2 full years in a real job, and he's been retired since 24. Focus early when you're young. Earlier you're focused on it, younger you are, the sooner you can hit your dreams. And if your goal is to travel around like him for the rest of his life and just be a bum and just live off his money, he worked for 2 years, whatever it is, do your thing and figure out your own path.
Well, thank you so much, John, for taking the time to shine your perspective and your life journey on this podcast. I really hope somebody that sees themselves in your shoes, sees the challenges that you went through, and understands what it takes to be like you or better. And I hope to have you on another podcast sometimes in the future, because you are one hell of a guy, and I really respect and admire your perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you much.
Thank you so much. That's so dope, bro. I'm not gonna lie, like your perspective is something else. It's all right.
So how long did it end up at?
I don't know, probably a lot. Wow, almost an hour.